in nerd things locally.
Uh-huh. Hey, I think this might be working. Kind of stunned. All right, let's see. Okay. Okay, it's streaming over there. Wow. All right, now let's see. The other thing I wanted to check, let's see. Since we're going to be talking about these comments, I need to set this up. Okay.
I don't have a web, but I could always stretch some more wires back there.
Oh, I provide all the web you could ever need. All right, let's see. Let me check this here.
Got to avoid the product placement.
I'm checking to make sure that the screen share is actually working, but let's see.
Oh, then I can tell you it is.
Oh, it is. Okay. Then
Sorry, I didn't know you wanted an answer. No, most of my screen is currently taken up with YouTube comments, and I'm not happy about that, but it is what you're trying to do right now.
Yes, I know. All right, so let's see. Okay.
One does not start a project with start streaming video, loop in a cesspit.
Yeah. All right.
And now it is gone.
Now it's gone for now. It will be back.
Yeah.
Sorry to say. Okay. We go.
I happened to look at them earlier because sometimes I'm masochistic that way. And one of them, just one, asked a question that I have also desperately been wondering about ever since. Why is your beard purple?
What? What? When did that happen? No.
Okay, I'll just assume you were bitten by one of the more interesting spiders and have had this reaction.
I have been trapped at home for, what is it now, 3 weeks? 3 long, miserable weeks. And I got bored one day and I just said, sure, we can do this. Let's throw some hair dye on here.
That was my guess.
Yeah. It was a whim. Okay, people are starting to make comments already. Let's see, I better keep track of this. Hey, I don't have to talk. I can just say it. Yeah, we're not quite starting yet. There's a couple more people who are going to show up. I am the mechanics of hooking up Zoom to YouTube and all that kind of stuff are sometimes a little bewildering. So I had to struggle ahead of time to make sure it worked, and it looks like it works. Oh, my tea is still too hot. So, Abby, what are you up to? Where are you at right now?
Home in Vancouver, Canada. Well, Technically I'm in New Westminster, which is a suburb of Vancouver.
Yeah, but
I'm actually taking a few minutes out of my day job, which is still running, to do this, but we're all software stuff and I'm working from home, and so.
Uh-huh.
Any further
Vancouver?
questions along that specific line? Very boring, not recommended.
Oh, come on. Vancouver is such a lovely city.
Well, when it exists, yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Nothing
It's
exists right
busy
now.
not existing at the moment.
Yeah.
The world didn't end, but it stopped. I've been calling it the apozcalypse.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but no, I've been to Vancouver many times. Always enjoyed it. I don't know if I'd want to live there, though. I hear it's kind of expensive. But
Yeah, but yeah, definitely. Well, certainly compared to somewhere like Morris, it's yeah, Vancouver is, oh man, certainly amongst the top 10 most expensive cities in North America. There's only 3 in Canada that really register for most expensive places, and this is one of them.
yeah. Well, Morris is cheaper. It's smaller, but right now it's equivalent to Vancouver. We got about the same level of activity going on here.
Funny how every number acts the same when multiplied by 0.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of tragic.
This is probably going to sound silly, but even for the sake of anyone who's watching it right now, I did want to say something. This is really cool to me, just being included with free thought people. After all those years, I was just lurking amongst the commentariat.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're here. So
I hope I'll provide something useful other than silly jokes.
well, silly jokes are really important right now. We need more silly jokes. So that would be good.
I was just telling a friend on Facebook earlier, when all of this is done, there's going to be this weird cultural phenomenon of a few months where all of the media that was produced is parodies and jokes and songs about being quarantined. And it's just going to be like this normal. Everyone's talking about only that normal. And it's going to look so weird looking back at it.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. I just want to get it over with and live through it. That's kind of important.
Yes. Unfortunately, those two ideas are at odds.
Well, are they? No, there's a possibility.
Well, no, I just mean
oh,
that
you mean
wanting to get it over with, but get it done, it's had to be finished, is at odds with it working.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and I just want my wife to get back here. This is a long time to be separated.
I imagine so.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear about that. I mean, that's always struck me as just a really horrible coincidental thing to happen.
Yeah, we timed it really badly. She left just before the big panic and all the concern about coronavirus hit. Now she's trapped with a little 1.5-year-old kid. I don't know which of us is the luckier one, but no, she is, because the kid's cute.
I figure the lucky version would have been if you got trapped with her.
Yeah, but then you see, back then, I was obligated to do all this teaching across the street at the university. And there was no way I could get away. Of course, now I could, because it's all this telecommuting stuff. So, oh well.
Except for those guys.
Oh, that's right. I do. Yeah, I got to take care of those. I was going to feed them today, except we had an ice storm overnight, and so outdoors is the nastiest and most treacherous I've seen it yet.
We don't have that weather in Vancouver, but we do where I come from. So yeah, silver
And
thaw.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from Newfoundland. It's the easternmost province of Canada.
And now you're in the westernmost. Okay, just flip-flop. Yeah, all right.
Sight unseen. In 2005, I went, I'm tired of being here, and just went, woo, coast to coast. Gone.
Let's see, looking at the comments. See, there's already somebody I have to kick off. Okay, bye.
Where are you seeing the comments for this?
So
Where's it streamed
over
to?
over on my other screen, I have the YouTube video up and the chat window from that. So when I look over this way, I'm looking at the YouTube chat.
Ah, there it is.
Yeah. Okay, it is.
That picture's funny.
It is 2:59. We got 1 minute, and then I will actually literally fire up the thing, and we can start looking at it.
Where's everyone else? Not scatter enough bait?
I don't know. There were 2 other people who were threatening to show up, but we'll see. All right, it is 3 o'clock. That means we have to get official here. We can actually have to actually do what I said I was going to do. So, oh, and there's CripDyke. Good, perfect timing. Okay, we were just firing things up. So, here's my plan. Is I put out this video that was basically a review of a paper from 1968 of all things about sexual identity of athletes, and it was the first in a long delay. I've just been slacking off at all this stuff, so I put that up there. And hey there. And so I put that up there, and then comments started to come in, and I noticed there was a bunch of them. I was surprised. I don't usually get that many comments on my videos because I'm a nobody in YouTube land and elsewhere. So I thought I would go through them, and then I decided I would go through it live with some helpers. Look, there's the helpers. So
we've come to recreationally experience the microaggressions and hopefully mock them.
Yes. Okay, so the plan is I am going to put up that screen. Let's see if I can find it again. Where'd I go? Let's see. Is this? Yes, this one. All right. So does everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Things are working good. Okay.
Although it's really meta because we're seeing this stream.
Yeah. Don't get confused about which place in the cosmos you are. Anyway, so what I thought I'd do is we would just go through and we could read these and make comments on them and see what they're, maybe I'll have to ban a few people. I don't know. We'll see. But we'll just have some fun with it. I skimmed through it earlier. I didn't look at it in any detail, and I got to warn you, there's some boringly charitable friendly comments here. I was hoping,
oh my goodness.
I know. I was hoping for something juicy and brutal, but no, it's good. It's actually kind of nice. So let's just zip through these as fast as we can, because there's it says 65 of them. All right. So the first comment from Cat Woods.
Just for the record, right
Yes.
now, I don't know if this is the same for the rest of you, but I'm only, oh, there, it moved slightly. Okay, I'm not seeing a refreshing, like it's just that one picture of you.
I think it might lag a bit for people.
Okay.
So it's going through YouTube and then back out to Zoom and then out. Anyway, we'll make it work. So anyway, the first comment from Cat Woods, and it's a nice comment. Well, thank you, Cat Woods, but how boring. Okay. So she says, I understand why you chose to stay out of that ugly battle in the atheist community. Yeah, in the beginning of the video, I mentioned how I kind of dawdled over it because, oh man, that was getting ugly. And Kat is so disappointed with atheist activists who constantly harp about beating evidence, just completely ignoring the evidence on sexual variations. And that was kind of the point of my video is variation is normal.
Mhm.
There's you can't simply standardize and say, well, this is the way to be and this is the way to be, and if you're not these two ways, you are abnormal. That just kind of creeps me out. So somebody agreed with me at the start. Okay.
I want to be
Moving on.
very clear about this.
Yes.
Being trans is not why I'm abnormal. I have other reasons for that.
Yeah, and look at me. I'm cis as all get out, and I'm abnormal too. So
Well, yeah, you're the purple bearded spider professor.
that's right. Yeah. So what is all this concern about normality and abnormality? Okay, the second comment is from Catherine Xanthi, who's also nice. Oh darn! Come on, let's get some mean meat here. Okay.
CripDyke, excuse me. In the
Yes.
screen share, are you seeing the comments? Because
I'm
still,
not.
yeah, I'm still seeing
Can
the
you-
actual.
Can
I
you
think-
scroll up?
So
I'm still seeing the actual video or the page for this video. Are you sharing the wrong window?
now you got me thinking. Am I? I don't know.
Because all I can see is the PZ reads the comments page, and it is updating.
Okay.
It's showing the it is updating. It's showing the comments scroll from time to time, but I'm not seeing the one we're supposed to be looking at.
Okay. So you people on YouTube are looking and who are chatting over here on the chat box. Can you say it? Are you seeing the comments? Okay.
I think you have shared the wrong page, PC.
Okay. I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to go here to share screen. Okay. I'm looking. There's that one.
That's the guy.
Is it working now?
That
Yep.
looks right. That looks right.
Okay. So, okay, now I'm confused. Is it scrolling?
Yep.
Yeah, it was just sharing the wrong window. It's all good now.
We're good then. All right.
Hey, looks like that guy needs another timeout, though.
I think he needs to be completely booted. Yeah.
I mean, apparently, judging from that briefly seen comment, not only is he transphobic, he can't count more than one.
Yeah, this is the concern, is that we'll get a bunch of idiots in the comments, but we'll make it work. Okay, so as I was saying, I moved on to the second one, which was from Catherine Xanthi. It's a lovely comment. And it's just making a comment, trans people cannot always do all the lifting on the spiral cells. And they like having allies, I guess. I guess
Yeah.
that's good. Okay. Third comment is, bless you for opening the comment section.
Can we go back to the one immediately previous for just a second?
Sure, yes.
This comment reminded me of another discussion that we had on your blog years ago about the North Star.
Mhm.
And there was a discussion about whether or not you should have waited for people of color to take the lead on how to respond to some racism in the North Star.
Right.
And some of us, including me, said, actually, it's good to have allies who don't just wait for you to do everything and then come along and pat you on the back. This is something that I appreciate, not just about this, but about some of your other activism as well, about how you step up when you feel things are affecting your community. I like proactiveness.
Yeah, and for those who don't know that, the North Star is the alternative campus newspaper here. It's run by student goons who are, they're extremely conservative.
Yeah, this is one of those unusual definitions of alternative where it actually means libertarian wank doodles.
Yes, and
that's the technical term.
Yeah, they're Turning Point USA types.
I was wondering if they were TPUSA.
Yep, definitely. They also
If,
put up posters.
if only
around campus.
politically we were running out of TP the same as with the rest of the commercial sector.
I would love to run out of Turning Point USA. Yes. I would also love to wipe my ass with it, but okay.
Well, conveniently, they deliver you the North Star for that.
Cheap paper with lots of ink. Ew, no, I don't think so. Okay. Anyway, so moving on. Naked Mole Rat mentions the beard. Yeah, people keep. This was a whim. Although I felt like saying, you know, what it really is we're in such desperate straits. I ran out of my usual gray beard dye and the natural colors coming out. Okay, Davis Staton says, thanks, I've been duly enlightened. Oh, that's good. Somebody learned something from one of my videos. Okay. Professor Frank says, nice to see and hear you again. Yeah, I've been really bad about keeping up with YouTube videos. You know, once classes started, I just ran out of time.
And then classes stopped.
Yeah, and now I have time again. So he says, perhaps the solution is to simply do away with artificial sex separation in sport and simply classify by ability, like in boxing. That's an interesting idea, because what do we replace this distinction between men's and women's sports with? Weight classes? I don't know.
It's one viable example. I mean,
yeah.
Really, a lot of it comes down to, I think, an unexamined question in sports, which is, what is the purpose of the separations at all? Boxing has weight classes in order to try to keep groupings of people that don't have like massive disparities between them, but it is massive and made of actual mass in that case. But
yes,
but that makes a certain amount of sense. Whereas the origin of splitting the men's and women's versions actually had more to do with the sexist history of sport at all, and more like giving the women some, you go over there and play, dear. It was a lot more of the origin than the whole make it fair idea. So it really comes down to, what is the objective of trying to split up the groups of people? And if you can articulate that in some way that doesn't contain men stronger than women as a base assumption. By the way, I do voices. Yeah. Then that would like lead there. So it seems like people don't start from first principles with that question.
Yeah, and you know the other thing is, of course, that there's an implicit bias in sports that have been designed to cater to men's abilities. So yeah, football's a great example. Big, bulky people, yes, pounding each other.
Yes.
We don't value sports that, you know, for instance, what if gymnastics were the national sport? Then
yes,
a lot of women would be the top of this, and then the men would be screaming, "You got to do something to equalize this."
Of course, there's an interesting feedback loop in there, because is gymnastics the women's sport because it's not looked at very closely, or is it not looked at very closely because it's the women's sport? Like, are there young boys who should be or would like to be gymnasts who are discouraged from doing it because that's for girls?
Yes,
etc., etc.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of interesting reverberating loops going on here. Okay, but anyway, yeah, we should be thinking about this sometimes. What can we do to equalize all this? Okay, next
and
comment.
Question one is, what does equalize mean?
Yes, especially when one of my points is that we're all different and we're all weird and we're all abnormal and abnormality is the new normal, and yeah. Yes, I think all sports should be designed so that I excel at them. Okay, moving on. John Brockman says, from now on, Keith L. Moore's name is Keithel Moore. I guess I slurred things a little bit in there. There's a reason for that, though, because if you search for Keith Moore, you get some televangelist preacher somewhere.
Oh.
If you search for Keith Elmore, then you get the actual embryologist who died just last year, by the way.
Oh.
Okay, let's go on. Another question about the purple beard. Okay. Let's see. Oh, we get one with a lot of replies. This one must be one of the juicy ones. We'll see.
Ursalian Ganon Thrall. Nope, I don't know what that means.
I don't either. Okay, says, wouldn't variation that falls into minuscule numbers be fair to class as abnormal?
No, and the reason
no.
for that is because of what abnormal means on a sociological level.
Yes.
I think atypical might be fair. Abnormal communicates, I think, something that isn't appropriate.
Yeah, and also
which is what they want to think of us.
Yes. Also, that distinction on the basis of numbers is kind of silly because everyone's unique, right? So if we just say, okay, well, if you're unique, if you're different from other people, then you're abnormal. That means we're all abnormal.
I wonder if it is the nature of, for lack of a better term, conservative thinking, although I don't think that's exactly what I'm getting at right now, to really be uncomfortable with the notion of everyone as individuals. Like it's necessary to chunk the world up into, here's a class of people and they have to act this way. Here's a class of people, they have to act this way. Never the twain shall meet. And like it's fuzzy boundaries might be a problem for that kind of thinking. I don't know. I'm speculating.
Yeah. And at the same time, a lot of conservative, libertarian thought is focused on the individual, how the individual is so important. And yet at the same time, they're doing all this stuff where they're saying,
well, that's the interesting thing. Libertarian thinking, at least to the relatively shallow version we tend to be exposed to, seems to be all about very individualistic individuals all acting exactly the same as one another.
Yeah, and that's just a contradiction in terms.
It makes me think of that bit in The Life of Brian where he's like, you're not worshiping, you're not a crowd, you're all individuals. And the whole crowd of people goes, we are all individuals. And then one voice pops up, I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah, that's us. Okay, anyway, I noticed this person has got all these timestamps on there. And no, I can't stand to watch my own videos. So no, I'm not going to go through and try and figure out the references here. Okay, but he says, okay, begs the question, does a psychological view of sex matter more than your biological markers of sex? I'd argue a female brain in a male body is still a male. Okay, how do I parse that?
Well, I think one of the first observations is to make is that it's not about mattering more or less. It's about some matter in some contexts and some matter in other contexts. And it's not all that often when both matter, although that can happen.
Yes.
I would take it even a step further than that. I think that comment is kind of missing your entire argument here, which is that if the concept of female brain is something we can talk about, which they are for the sake of this question at the very least, then that is part of the biological markers of sex, isn't it? So it's not that it's a category error to try and separate those things out. They're making the fundamental ghost in the shell mistake of assuming that brains aren't part of biology.
Yes, that there's something intrinsic but not tied to the brain that defines your sexual identity. And for a group that's largely going to consist of atheists, that's a very weird argument to make.
Well, I find there's a lot of things, and this is a good example of them, where people who are notionally or even by declaring their identity, skeptics and atheists and so forth, have still swallowed like versions of notions that turn out being kind of spiritual or religious if you examine them closely.
Yes.
And this is an example of it. There's still this nebulous notion of mind as something separate from brain, which is sort of like something you just don't think about most of the time, except suddenly you have something like this. And what's the definition of a female brain if not biology? So we're talking about the female mind. Well, it is part of biology, even though you might,
Yes.
even though the argument here makes it sound like they're trying to talk about a female soul.
Yeah, it makes me think of all the arguments about free will, and I refuse to get into arguments about free will. I think it's a nonsensical concept. But yeah, there's this fundamental failure of many people to recognize that their self is part and parcel of their biological self. It's not something outside of that biology. So yeah, it's a weird comment.
I would agree with what both of you just said, each and together. But I also want to make the point that I think that humans are very good at abstraction, and we can discuss a mind separate from discussing a brain without asserting that the two are not interacting. So it is possible to study psychology without studying neurons.
Right. Yes. That it's a matter of what level of the discussion are you going to have this on.
And so I don't think that the mere fact of discussing, say, a mind means that one necessarily buys into woo, although it in the context you can sometimes find that is part of the woo that's going on.
Yeah, well, I don't disagree with you. I mean, in effect, if you really look into it, as far as I can tell anyway, what a mind is, which is to say what a person, a consciousness effectively is the aggregate, emergent effect of the interactions of neurons. It's like the layer that results from the behavior of the neuron of the brain.
Sure.
But the specific case is where somebody is specifically trying to say that brain is not part of body. And I think that's not really a supportable argument.
Right. No, I do think that I agree with both of you. I just wanted to add that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, let's move on. He cites 8 minutes and 2 seconds in. I said something that is fantastically useless, apparently. I have no idea what I said, but anyway, this begs the practical question: how many sexes should the world cater for? I'd still vote 2.
I believe that this is in response to your mathematical computation that 2 to the 9th equals 512.
Yeah, which is just an off-the-wall, casual. Okay, yeah, if this is true, then we got a lot more sexes than 2. But
this isn't. I took your statement about the 512 dimensional. The 9-dimensional space resulting in 512 potential points to be similar to Anne Fausto Sterling's argument, which was often misunderstood when she wrote in the 1990s. And it was misunderstood in exactly the same way that Arcelian appears to be misunderstanding your argument here. And that's when Anne Fausto Sterling made her 5 Sexes paper. Her point was that the categories aren't as stable as we think, and the categories shouldn't define us. We are, the Jewish phrase is, man is not made for the Sabbath is made for man. And I think that a variation of that could apply here, that our understanding of sex is not something that we're supposed to fit ourselves into. Rather, our understanding of sex should fit who we are.
Yes, I agree with that. That was just a throwaway point, and so I wasn't sure. But what interested me is his point that how many sexes should the world cater for, as if that's the point of the question, is that, yeah, we can expect the world to cater to men and maybe to a lesser extent women, but we can't possibly expect the world to cater to all these weirdos, right? That's kind of revealing. And the fact that he vote for 2, I don't care. This is not a matter you vote on.
No. And if we're going to take that question as good faith, I'm not 100% sure, but let's go with that. Mm-hmm. The answer is actually in what context? Because the majority of contexts, the answer is one or meaningless in terms of the vast majority of the time, it doesn't matter. The law, for example, should be applying equally regardless of what people are. If possible, bathroom facilities should be neutral because then everyone can use them, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Most of the time, it doesn't matter. So
Yes.
the question then is, how many sexes should the world cater for? Why should the world be catering for sexes as a special thing? In what context? When does it specifically matter?
Yep.
The
Let's have the world cater to people, and that's good enough.
Well, I thought that the cater for language too was particularly revealing. It's like, this is greatly embracing the language of privilege, right? Cater to me. Don't cater to those other people, but do cater to me. Not don't care about me any more than you care about other people. Not don't cater to anyone. But affirmatively cater to me because I fit whatever I think sex should be about, and therefore I've somehow earned some special attention.
Yes. And I want to mention also what Abby said. Reading this, I don't feel like this person is trolling or anything like that.
No, not trolling.
I think they're just wrong. And maybe sincerely wrong, but I think they've got some hang-ups.
Judging from the rest of it, this is if I take back that supposition, it is in good faith. Yes.
Yeah. I just totally disagree with them.
It's just coming from a point. I think the feeling I get from looking at this more closely actually is not that it's in bad faith, but rather that, possibly unsurprisingly, your video has challenged some of their axiomatic assumptions about how the world is, and it's ramming into some cognitive dissonance here. For example, the 836, the very next thing, the very first phrase, or that true sex.
Yeah.
True sex? Interesting.
That's a really interesting phrase, isn't it? I mean, Keith L. Moore also uses the phrase true sex in his paper. And it's one of the things I disagree with him on is how do we define that? It seems to me that if somebody's got a sexual attitude, a sexual belief, a sexual perception, that's just as true as somebody else's. So, yeah. So this person at 836, he's frustrated with this idea that a male body carved to look like a typical female wants me to call them a woman.
Okay, well, that's just transphobia straight up.
Yes, that is. That's just flat out transphobia right there. Why
carved?
Should you? Yes, hacked, chopped up. Yeah. Why should you? Why should it be a matter for you to determine whether somebody else has an identity that they possess? Why should you be frustrated at somebody? This is very Jordan Peterson-esque, isn't it?
It's very essentialist at a social level.
Yes.
And I would speculate, and again, I don't know this for sure, but I would speculate that the author of these comments is a heterosexual guy. In which case, again, notice that none of this is talking about trans dudes at all. So what we have here is he seems to be unhappy about not being able to identify real women and have the interactions that he wants to have with real women, which itself sounds kind of entitled to me. It's like,
Yes.
The interactions I'd have with a woman aren't the same as what I can have with them.
Yes.
Really? Well, to start with, is that because you call us carved? I mean, I don't think anybody likes that. Yeah.
And that he is frustrated with your existence. Why should you be frustrated?
Be frustrated.
Yes. Okay.
Why do you care, man?
Yeah. So the next point, is there a percentage of male attribute that should keep you out of women's sports?
Well, and this just brings up what Abby was saying about neglecting F to M perspectives. There's not any particular percentage of female attribute that this person is concerned about keeping out of men's sports, right?
Right.
No, it's always, oh, let the little dears compete with the men if that's what they want. And then Mac begs, destroys everybody, and then all the transphobes forget who that is. You know, it's like, and get his life backwards. It's like, oh.
Yes, and then there's this business of trying to enumerate it, a percentage of maleness. What is a percentage of maleness? To a biologist looking at people around the world, we are all 100% human, and there's some small fraction of a percent difference on average between men and women. But even that's not fixed. So if we're going to go and start quantifying and measuring, how do you even do that? I don't know.
How do you decide which direction on the scale counts as positive and which counts as negative? I bet I know what they'd like to assume.
Okay, his last point depends on feelings come up a lot, and I don't respect feelings.
Well, that might be why you're frustrated interacting with people.
Well, I thought in terms of frustrating interacted with people, it's very interesting that this person wants us to know about and wants us to care about their frustration, and at the same time wants to say that they don't care about feelings. They don't respect feelings.
They don't respect other people's feelings. Their feelings are the important one. Here we have an accidental solipsist argument.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the Ben Shapiro story all over again. And people who say that just turn me off. Okay, I don't respect their feelings. That's true. When they have when they have this idea that you shouldn't respect feelings, because that's what people are. We're a little shambling collection of feelings, walking around, reacting to the environment, and yeah, that's how we respond. That's really important. This would only matter if you were a machine. Maybe machines don't have feelings, but we're not. Okay, so
that just makes me think of The Good Place. Not a robot.
Yeah. So let's look at the replies real quick. I don't want to. Let's see. What do we? So apparently people are pushing back. That's good. So brains don't have gender. Bodies are not carved. Yeah. Okay. We've already made that point. And then our original commenter says, I don't see where I said brains have gender. I think we just quoted it.
Well, I don't know. He said brains have sex, or at least hypothetically, for the sake of one of the questions, the second one, I think. So perhaps we should see the rest of that comment.
Okay, here it comes.
Yeah, perhaps it's, dude. Okay, that's special. How trustworthy is research when the researcher has a very clear horse in the game by being trans? That's fascinating. Don't you think you have a horse in the game here? Guy who desperately wants to have a specific kind of interaction with women and want to make sure you can identify what you consider women carefully? I mean, that sounds like you got quite an emotional involvement in the question at hand.
You know, all cis hetero people are the standard, the gold standard by which we judge everything.
Fool's gold, maybe.
It's the default. So we're supposed to just respect it for that reason. Yeah, that's...
Obviously, only agender people can do social science research on gender.
Oh.
I'd be okay with letting that happen for a while and see what the result is.
Yeah, I agree.
That would blow a few minds. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's see. So somebody else pushes back on female brain in a male body. Yeah. Your language indicates hard science denialism. And I kind of agree with that, because the whole point of my video was, here's the science that biologists have been speaking out about for over 50 years.
Yeah.
And everyone seems to just ignore it. Like, biologists don't count in these kinds of discussions. Okay, yeah, and they point out transphobia. Yeah, definitely there was transphobia there. And yeah, begging the question.
Making an excellent point there, I think, which is worth mentioning. All scientists are biased, and science is run / dominated by men. Why are you now accepting any that talks about men then? Exactly. Like, boom. we therefore cannot accept anything that men have decided about men. If we can't include anything that trans women have decided about trans women, or any other gender pattern you might prefer.
Yeah. It strikes home because when I teach introductory biology, the first week or two is me just talking to them about how science is a social enterprise and there's biases everywhere, and scientists are human beings, and as human beings, they're all going to have their own personal biases. And I throw Francis Bacon at them, who talks at length about these. So, yeah, they're right. All scientists are biased. And
I mean, the whole purpose of the scientific method really is to start from that assumption and then try to test what we're thinking of. Like the idea of having the replications is to try to get away from the biases where possible. But given that the modern notion of science was something that started hundreds of years ago, always with privileged men of means who had the time and money to do stuff, nonetheless, that demographic became sort of the thing, and they never questioned themselves. And then the whole basis that we have to work from now winds up riddled with biases that nobody thought to even start thinking about until like the middle of the last century.
Yeah. And we're still struggling with this. It certainly hasn't been fixed yet. Okay, let's see. Our original poster comes back. You don't like the tone of my... Oh boy. Okay.
I like how that sounds like an anime villain.
Yes.
Such cowardice is not worth respecting.
Yes. Doesn't respect feelings, doesn't respect cowardice, doesn't respect people who use the wrong tone in addressing them. Let's see, noise. Let's go on. Let's just get, oh yeah.
The word abnormal is not a scientific term.
Yep.
Normal is, but it refers to a distribution statistically, and I don't think that's what they're getting at.
Yeah, although I could have mentioned, that in that paper by Moore, he does use the word abnormal a few times. And it's 50-year-old science, and it's a problem. And in modern genetics, we still have this problem that we got to go back to the literature, and you find all these things where people talk about abnormalities of chromosomes, for instance, and they're not. They're variations, and sometimes they cause handicaps and problems, but to call them abnormal when they happen so often is kind of peculiar, and when it's just part of the normal range of variation. So
you wind up in an interesting situation to some extent where we have 7 and rapidly counting billion people on the planet, at which point fractions of a percent in anything suddenly becomes a sizable multi-million person population. It's hard to throw away anything under those circumstances and say, oh, this doesn't happen. There's millions of them.
Yes. And one of the nice things about the internet sometimes is that it allows these millions to get together, and suddenly they're a sizable block and they can actually do things.
Get together and be abnormal in a large group.
Okay, I'm getting kind of bored with this guy, so I'm going to move on. That's yeah, we've got a lot of replies, and that's good. So people are fighting back against this stuff, and it's mostly civil. So hey, I'm already impressed with the YouTube comments so far. So
that's true.
Yeah,
you got to grant them that. It's just as you say, they're pretty wrong, but they're not being belligerent.
Correct. They're just sort of asserting that this is the way it is. Okay, let's go on to David Moran. I don't care what someone wants to call themselves or what bathroom they want to use, but we can.
There's a red flag.
Yeah, I know. I read the first 2 phrases and I said, okay, I know where this is going.
And he's just started commenting on this video, so.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, when we get into the issue of sports, the issue comes down to advantage. Okay, yeah, that's true. It's sports where one side has an unfair advantage is not fun to participate in or watch. I would agree with that completely. Then he says, rationality rules on YouTube. Oh boy. poked a hornet's nest with his video showing 3 men who transitioned into women and dominated their class of sports.
All right, that didn't happen.
I
And
know.
secondly, I would how about rather than dig too far into this one, maybe we should just say, hello, David, we can see you in the current comments. You really need to read what H.J. Hornbeck has been writing about this specific set
Yes.
of videos and debunking them, and also what, oh heavens, Essence of Thought, was that the name?
Yeah.
Yeah, has
Yes.
posted on the topic. Because you've got really the wrong end of a lot of sticks right there. I mean, even Y chromosome men who identify as women physically. I mean, do we even start on the Y chromosome? The Y chromosome isn't even the thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, there are occasional cases where men who transitioned into women go into, for instance, a race and they might win, but it's not routine. And immediately they are called out and accused of cheating,
Yeah.
which is the injustice here. That
Also, David just said, I saw the video. All right. There's like 4 videos and 4 or 5 essays from H.J. Hornbeck, so it's a lot more than the video.
yeah. Huh. So where to go with this? When
Whoa, hang on. I'm sorry. I just saw something. Sorry, I apologize. Whenever muscle strength is a critical factor, men will have the advantage of having been born with denser muscle tissue fibers. Born with denser muscle tissue fibers. That's interesting. So
yes.
You don't think that hormones in puberty, I mean, even assuming that's the case, has anything to do with it? You think like people with Y chromosomes are like the Hulk when they're born? Like, is there a an epidemic I'm not aware of assigned male at birth, people just sort of grabbing the doctor and going, ugh, and knocking the doctor out? Or
yes, as a
nobody is born with denser muscle tissue fibers.
Right. As a person who is older and non-athletic, I can say I've got 2 grandchildren and I could take them both at the same time if I had to. They're not that strong. And if you ever go to look at a baby's limbs, they're pretty flabby. They
really are.
Yes, they're like little gooey things that, you know, it takes time to build this stuff up.
He's just commented now, they have denser muscle fibers. No, small babies do not have denser muscle fibers when they're born. And insofar as possibly muscle fibers can increase in density, I'm not sure about that one, but assuming it's true, that is a hormonal effect, which is then lost under HRT.
Yes. Yeah, that's another thing they're constantly, and this is in the Idaho law too, that what they do is they compare men to women, and then they say trans men or trans women are just men. They forget that comparison between men and trans men. And so they get this skewed perception of, you know, of the difference. But yeah, I suspect that anybody who's gone through hormonal therapy can tell you that no, when you start taking blockers and get your testosterone reduced, you feel a difference in muscle strength.
Yeah. Trans women often wind up actually at a disadvantage sometimes in sports on the basis of having now somewhat weaker muscles, but still a denser skeleton. So it's harder to move.
Yeah.
And it's just weird is what it is. But I notice here the same commenter who is commenting right now says at the end, denying this fact, which isn't a fact, but in order to create a socially fair attitude towards trans athletes is simply dishonest. Now, I feel that that term right there is extremely telling. According to this gentleman, treating trans women as women is an act of dishonesty. That's kind of tells you everything you need to know about where he's coming from. Yes.
Yeah. And, you know, realistically, that if you look at athletes, it's you know, at least the upper class of athletes, it's kind of a lifelong commitment. They have been actively involved in sports and so forth for their childhood, their adolescence, their adulthood, and they have developed these differences by practice and training and working hard.
Yeah.
So why are we, there are two things. One is, can you imagine somebody so committed to performance in sports that they want to be at the top of the field and their decision is to take drugs that weaken them, relatively speaking? I just don't think that happens. I think these trans women are doing so for genuine, heartfelt reasons of their identity and not to gain an advantage in sports, because that would just be insane for people to be doing that. But the other is that we are assuming that, at least this person is assuming, that the actual differences between men and women and between men and trans men and women and trans women are not the product of this long life of development, that they're taking something they were born with, they aren't, and getting an injection and poof, they're in another class that they can excel. That's just not how it works.
It just seems like another case of the axiomatic assumption and then arguing for the axiomatic assumption rather than seeing that it's refuted.
Yes.
This has replies.
Oh, it does. How many? Does it have lots of replies? Oh, no, just one. Okay. So should tall men be explicitly prohibited from playing the NBA because they have a massive anatomical advantage over short men? Oh, yeah, that's true. We should do that. Okay. Let's move on. Julia Ruva says, trans folk need to have a significant say in what gender and sex are. And this is true for so many human variations. Yes. Pathologizing of variations needs to die.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the dream, is that, we stop trying to fit people into pigeonholes and we instead appreciate people for who they are and that everyone is different. Okay.
Yeah.
And yes, some agrees. Okay. We're not having a lot of sport here with the, no blood sport with the crazy people here, but okay, that's fine.
It's going to get unfortunate and weird in a moment. Not this one, two down from here.
Okay, well, let's zip through these things. So yeah, Daniel Snyder says, a game where sport has rules. Whoever makes the game makes the rules. Yes, this is true. And you can't just arbitrarily change the rules. I agree, but the point with the rules is to try and give an enjoyable experience to all participants, right? So why can't we change the rules if it's not being fair to all people?
And
Basically, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I think that's what the reply here says. If you click on it, is that
yeah.
Yeah, see, I should just shut up and trust the commenters to take care of everything for me. It's great.
The upshot is that comment from Daniel Snyder is across the board technically correct, but also kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, he's missing the point.
I mean, it's true, a game has rules, but if you don't like the rules, don't play or create your own game. Why? You can't talk about the rules? I mean, I've even changed the rules of Settlers of Catan to be less frustrating. So, there's always room for adjustments.
Let's be fair. This is an argument for keeping Jackie Robinson out of Major League Baseball.
Fact.
Oh, that's true.
There were rules. The rules had a separate, what they called Negro League. And black men were not allowed to play Major League Baseball, and that was the rule. And the idea that the rules are somehow socially neutral and automatically fair because we know the rules and we should just accept them or not play the game, I think when put in that comparison, I think can be seen for what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, so, if the Republicans decide that all Democrats must die, then, well, that's their rule. You can't argue with it.
Sadly, they seem to be moving in that direction lately.
Yes, I know. Okay, let's move on. Next question from Thoughts. Are you cool with non-materialistic views on reality? Oh, that's kind of off topic. Yeah, I have. Okay, forget this. I don't want to get into that. Oh, it goes on and on.
Yeah, a bit much. And I mean, I think the correct answer is maybe in your case, mostly no, but what are we talking about type of thing? Like,
yeah, we are not trying to invoke a divine spirit to make decisions here. So let's forget that. Okay, constant disappointment. Is that a prophetic name? Oh, lots of
yes.
replies. Okay.
I've looked at this one. This is from somebody who appears to be a TERF.
Oh.
At a glance, and I'm not certain.
Okay. If you're strong, you're not a woman. Yeah, that's quoting me in the video, and I was being sarcastic because what I was pointing out is that, I'd seen a lot of these cartoons mocking Russian athletes, for instance. And the idea was that if you're big and bulky and strong, you are obviously a man, not a woman. Right. And so I'm saying that my point was, no, that's not valid, that you can't use that as a criterion. So this person says it's kind of what the gender ideologues are saying.
No.
Who are the gender ideologues? That's my question.
That is, well, hypothetically, that's us. That's anyone who's saying that there aren't fundamental differences, or rather trying. Okay. So there's this, what we have here is this talking point that I've only ever seen in TERF world, which is why I think that's what this person is. But the notion here is that transgender ideology is so gender essentialist that we need to look at everyone and whatever their traits are, go and force them into one of the two boxes. Like say, oh, you are too strong, you cannot be woman, crunch. Oh, you are kind of fast and small, you are obviously, you must be woman. And they think this. It's bonkers. It's not even in the same galaxy as what anybody actually believes. It's like this giant straw. This is a straw man so large you could stick Nicolas Cage in it and set it on fire. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's kind of revealed in this next bit where he says, if women don't fancy men and don't want to wear dresses and makeup, they're not women and need a double mastectomy.
Yeah,
this is not something a feminist or a progressive or liberal or anything would say. This is a complete invention by this person, and
not only that, but you have to deliberately cut yourself off from an understanding of what the population of trans people contains in order to hold this opinion, because butch trans women are completely a thing. Trans lesbians are a thing. Hello, I am one. Femme trans men are a thing. And that's before we get into all of the possibilities that are not binary people. And it's like, no, we say that everyone can be whatever it is that they are. We're not, the whole point of, insofar as there's anything you could call an ideology, the whole point is that everyone decides who and what they are. It's not a matter of in any way trying to impose something from outside. This is the point of view of people who think that affirmative therapy for trans youth is trying to figure out which box to knock them into, when actually it's all affirm whatever the kid says, whichever way it goes, just support them.
Exactly.
Like the whole point is don't shove pegs into holes. Let them find whatever hole or lack of hole that got dirtier than I was planning. It works for them.
Yes. So apparently, though, if you think that way, you are an obviously misogynist, homophobic, anti-materialist belief system, and you've accepted some cultish dogma. When what you've just said is kind of the opposite of that. It's saying, no, we're not trying to impose a belief on anybody. We're trying to accept people as they are.
Right.
So, okay, so I can see why this got a lot of comments. Yep. Okay. And I agree with your assessment that it's a turf. But again, let me just point out that, I wouldn't call this trolling. This is somebody with a distinctly wrong belief who's trying to make their point and failing miserably because everybody can see through their arguments really easily.
Well, what we have here, as you say, it's not a troll. This is somebody who is crusading very hard for what they may truly believe is trying to support women. This is the kind of argument you get from feminists who don't have any understanding of what trans people are and who have, in some conscious or unconscious way, swallowed the second wave-ish notion that anything that is man or man-ish is the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that I want to back up a couple of steps and just say that in terms of classifying this person as a TERF, like I honestly don't see the feminism. And so to that extent, classifying them as a TERF might be wrongheaded.
Fair enough. That makes sense. All right. The argument is one that I've only previously seen in TERF land. So it is a TERF talking point. Whether or not this specific person is, I do not know by definition. I can just say that this argument and also the framing of it are things that I've generally seen as dog whistles in TERF world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
but so what this might be as a person who is making themselves an ally of TERFs, but fundamentally they're anti-feminist.
TERFism is fundamentally anti-feminist.
But they call themselves feminists.
And the Democratic People's Republic of Korea calls itself the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. There's a weird line of thinking, very Orwellian, that thinks you can change what something fundamentally is by placing a differing label on it, and that don't work.
Okay. Well, let's look at the comments on this. So Alex Deem, I think, has just agreed with all of us.
Yeah.
So he's making the same point.
And a bit of a dig at the end, but whatever.
Yeah. And Constant Disappointment replies, hardly a straw man when it happens all the time. What? When does this? I would like to see a citation from some contemporary feminist who is arguing that if you get a mastectomy, you are a man.
Oh man, there's a guy in our current comments doing the attack helicopter line, and at which point it's like, yeah, sure, if you want to be an attack helicopter, be an attack helicopter. You're just saying you're somebody who is, number one, intended for fighting, and number two, incapable of doing anything unless you have a couple of men stuck inside you.
Oh, yeah, I hadn't been following the chat line so far, so
it's been basically okay. That person is slowly revealing transphobia.
Okay. Oh, I see. So I can when will they learn that attack helicopter is such a tell? It immediately lets us know where they stand on this stuff.
But I'm a drone racer. Well, I believe the drone part.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I wish they were a little bit more intelligent in their conversation, but oh well. Okay, so Constant Disappointment here. Again, hardly a disappointment when it happens. It just doesn't happen, though.
No.
Men should be able to be comfortable being feminine. Women should be able to be comfortable being masculine.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And the rest of that doesn't happen. This is what I'm saying. It's like you could.
Yeah. So
not the bees.
I'm comfortable being who I am, which I feel like is fairly masculine. But when I hang out with big muscly guys that drink lots of beer, then I'm relatively feminine, I guess, if we're defining that axis that way. And I don't see myself getting pushed into medical intervention for that. there's this unspoken, this whole unspoken spectrum of how they think men and women should be. And
Yeah. See, that's just it. That's why I said that turfism is fundamentally anti-feminist, because when you scrape off the topsoil, you very swiftly hit a bedrock of fundamental assumptions about what men and women have to be. And it's weird that they make arguments like this coming in trying to sound progressive, but then very swiftly land on, but this is what men is, this is what women is, you know?
yeah. So wait a moment, I just heard a beep.
Yep, somebody has arrived.
Okay,
Sarah's
Sarah's coming. Okay, good. Yeah, well, she's an hour late, but we're not done yet. So we will welcome Sarah's contributions. Okay, so anyway, constant disappointment is being disappointing. Alex Dean is fighting back well. Okay.
Same
I
points
think
we're making, basically.
Yeah. Like you say, this whole thing is irrelevant. We should just let our commenters battle it out among themselves. Indirect existence says transgender and cisgender men and women and non-binary folks as well can all be either or both masculine or feminine or something in between or something off the side or none of those at all. Yes.
Yeah.
Was that so hard?
Yep. It really is. It's really that hard.
Okay, then constant disappointment is going to disappoint us again. The video is called The Fallacy of Biological Sex. That is, sex is a fallacy. No, that's not what I was saying at all. Sex is not a fallacy. Oh, hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Okay.
You were saying sex is complicated, not that.
Yes. And ultimately, my point is that all of sex is biological. There's no such thing as non-biological sex, at least not in the real world.
You can get sex dolls. If you want to have sex with a block of silicone, you can go ahead and do it.
But
it just doesn't have anything to do with people.
Yeah, well, there's one biological entity involved. Is just how often do two sex dolls get together and go at it?
I'd love to see the survey about that.
Yeah, if that happens, then we can start talking about non-biological sex. But until then, it's simply such an all-encompassing term to say biological sex. There's no point in talking about anything else.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's literally the topic of your video, and the whole notion, biological sex, the fallacy is that it isn't the simple, thou shalt have Y chromosome, thou shalt therefore have penis and descended testicles, and therefore also the shapes of man, and to be good at man things. Like the whole thing is just this giant edifice of things that people think is one thing, and it's not, because that's the fallacy.
Yep. Yeah, so he's missing the point on what this fallacy is. You know, sex, for instance, right? That happens. Even spiders do it. So it's like he's completely wrong on everything. Okay.
Now, admittedly, that is different. We trans women almost never eat our partners.
Well, it turns out my spiders, if you treat them well, do not eat their partners either.
So what you're saying is we should, in order to eventually be treated well.
I think you got cause and effect reversed there, but okay, yes.
I could go for a luau.
Okay, let's see. Constant disappointment is going to annoy us again. What's the difference between a trans woman and a cis man?
Just beyond your grasp.
I'll let you guys take that one.
Well, to be honest, I think indirect existence did.
Oh, the next comment, you mean? Yeah, there's many different aspects to sex. Yeah, okay. There's psychological sex, social sex, etc. Uh-huh. Yeah, so what can I say? It's like, you know, this is another example of the guy trying to fit everyone into one of two boxes.
Yes.
I have a suspicion that's not a guy, but again, that's just
Oh.
from where I've habitually seen some of the dog whistles and phrasings here. So it's you know,
Yes,
it's
that's an
stochastic at
assumption I'm
best.
making. Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't make that assumption. Okay, so indirect existence is doing a good job of taking care of this issue.
And
Yeah.
above Alex, they sort of tagged off there.
Yeah. So I think that's working out well. You know,
Well,
I should be hitting these like buttons, shouldn't I?
For onlookers, it's working out well. Constant disappointment is not actually consuming any of the arguments that are being presented.
Yeah, just remind me to hit those up and down arrows. I should be doing that. Okay, let's see. Constant disappointment says brain sex is a myth based on phrenology and other outdated pseudosciences. I don't get that one.
I mean, it strongly depends on what they mean by brain sex. And I think that they're very likely using an idiosyncratic definition, which with their idiosyncratic definition, it may even be that what they're saying is true, but it doesn't matter. It's not relevant to the discussion if what they mean by brain sex has nothing to do with what other people are talking about. And that's how it came across to me, is that it was almost a non sequitur in that they chose to use something which has a definition that has nothing to do with what people are actually discussing.
Yes. Okay. And so, oh, they know people with DSDs. Okay, well then they can't possibly be homophobic or transphobic because they know somebody.
No, this is interesting. Read this one out, would you?
Yeah, so I know a few people with DSDs, and they are annoyed they're being involuntarily roped into all this nonsense. They know they're either male or female.
How?
No. Yeah, that's a good question.
How do they know that?
So
you're saying they have some innate understanding of their gender? Something like that, maybe?
That maybe doesn't align perfectly with their genitalia or their internal gonads or anything like that. Yeah.
Well, in this case, their genitalia are non-specific because they're specifically talking about people with. Also, I wonder about that intersex is a misnomer thing. I mean, this is outside my direct experience largely, but I've definitely never seen anybody who is intersex complain about that term.
There have been some complicated discussions in intersex space, and it's about how to represent oneself, because there's a difficulty in communicating to non-intersex people what the experience of being intersex is like. And part of that is that we're hung up on bodies, and we want to know, like, does this mean that your genitals are halfway between a penis and a clitoris, or, you know, and to have a disorder of sexual development, which is what DSD stands for, to be living with a DSD, it doesn't necessarily mean that an individual part of your body is halfway between. There's not a neat linear distribution, and we're saying that you're in the 49th percentile and therefore you're intersex. The way that things play out in development can there simply isn't well, actually, I would ask you, PZ, like, what would be the homologous structure for like a fallopian tube? Is vas deferens a homologous structure?
No, because there's actually embryologically some of the ducts. We have two sets of ducts, and one degenerates in females and the other degenerates in males.
Right.
So they're not strictly homologous in the adult.
Which makes it impossible to say that something is just like a half of a one and a half of the other.
And this is also getting to what was mentioned earlier about this person trying to find a specific percentage of male and female. It's just doesn't make sense. It's not a numerical measure that's just, where you can say, oh, this person's 48% female. It just doesn't work that way.
And so the problem with the term intersex is that it does not always adequately communicate what people want it to communicate, because it sometimes, to the uneducated, communicates this idea that, oh, we must be between,
Yes.
or we must be half of this and half of the other thing. And I have heard some people say that intersex is a misnomer, but I don't think that that's I don't think it's generally agreed that it's a misnomer, but when they're saying that, they're referencing these particular debates about how effectively does intersex communicate what it's intended to communicate, and how much does it communicate this myth that there's this in-between state.
Yeah, well, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, you know,
I
and I would just, as an example, I would say, okay, if you're going to assign a percentage to it, what is the percentage of maleness in a person with hypospadias? Can you give me a number?
I can give you a number.
Yes, but does it have any relationship to
No, not a bit. I just know some numbers and I can say them. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, and then this business about no one has half a Y chromosome. I bet you some people do. There are deletions and things.
There are, and isn't it? And I saw that, and I'm immediately thinking, isn't that exactly what happens when the SRY gene moves?
Yes, when you get a translocation, then
there's not a lot of genetic material on the Y. It's small. It's practically degenerate. But the SRY is the thing that sets off the cascade of hormones that causes male to happen in mammals, as I understand it. You know, here's me talking and the biologist is listening, right? And but yeah, you could literally have half a Y chromosome if that thing moves.
Yes, and when you actually look at, you know, male sexual development, it's SRY, but it's a bunch of other genes, and some of those genes are on the X chromosome that are essential for normal male differentiation.
Well, they'd have to be. If you don't have an X chromosome, you're just dead.
Yeah, so there's this reification of Y chromosomes. It's just, you know, in my genetics class, I try to get the students to stop thinking this way, that it's not a magic device that contains all of your male attributes.
Yes, it's not like it's literally a Y shape and the tail is a tiny penis just waiting to be birthed into the world. It's not like that. And I feel like, now this is just speculation, but I feel like it's an unexamined sexism again. Like there's this, like it's this coming back to the idea that there's a thing that makes men the great thing that men are. Oh, it's the Y chromosome. I guess that's the magic man button, you know.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a whole issue with lots of genetics where, you know, people are always looking for the gene for X or Y or whatever, and these things simply do not exist. That's not how the genome works, and they're translating this into, you know, how the Y chromosome works, and they're all getting it wrong.
Yeah, you get an incomplete, even at the layman level, understanding of genetics mashed up with an essentialism of here's what guy is, and suddenly you have the Y chromosome on a pedal with man written under it. And it's like, I mean, would it be reasonable to say that for the vast majority of traits, asking for the gene is immediately making a giant mistake that won't work out?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I wish more people would read Carl Zimmer's book. She has her mother's laugh. What I think it was something like that, which goes into great length and all this stuff. You know, that genes.
One of our commenters from today just said Magic Man button would make a good band name. Yes, yes, it would.
And I got to keep an eye on those because sometimes people are getting lost.
I've been glancing at them. It's been it's been mostly civil. Actually, I haven't seen anything that needs a. Well, there's that one guy who just said, I kind of proved they're easily triggered. So he's already showing 4chan behavior and making jokes that are ableist as well as transphobic, but everyone else is pretty much chewing on him. So.
Okay, good. Let them dine and take care of it all for me. Okay.
Let them that is exactly the attitude I would expect from the spider guy. Oh, they're being chewed on, are they? Let them dine. Let my commenters inject the one problematic one with all of the poisons and the enzymes that will reduce them to a liquid.
Okay, moving on. Let's see. Oh, constant disappointments just won't shut up. But okay. At least we know the trans activist. Oh, trans activist. There's a giveaway term.
Yeah. It's
No
another turf dog
is
whistle.
rubbish, because we're having a debate. No, we're not having a debate. We got one side that's spouting off bullshit, and there's another side that's trying to come back with, here's the actual information. So no, that's not a debate. It's just somebody babbling. Okay. Let's see. Indirect existence as sex itself as a single parameter, whether chromosomal or psychological, is a myth. That is true. That's correct. It's multiple parameters. And okay. Man, I got good commenters on YouTube. How did that happen? Okay. Yeah, so they're just making some of the same points we just made. All right. So constant disappointment comes back. Oh boy.
Ooh, hit the like button on that one.
Oh yes, hit the like button on that one. Yeah, that's a good point. And hit the dislike button on this one. So you don't believe in chromosomes. Oh, what a silly rejoinder. You know that.
Yes, the developmental biologist doesn't believe in chromosomes. Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, next they're going to tell me I don't believe in Mullerian and Wolffian ducks either, but no, okay. Indirect existence comes back with sex has never been defined exclusively by chromosomes. I would say it's not defined by chromosomes pretty much at all, except in a technical sense in some labs. This is a point I've made multiple times before. Most people have no idea what their chromosomes look like.
Dude's revealing his trolliness over there in the chat, by the way.
Oh, is he? Oh. Okay. If it gets bad, I will delete him. Well, it's always bad, but okay.
He said, I'm here to learn and ask critical questions. No, you're clearly not, because you are not asking critical questions. You are asking 4chan, you're asserting 4chan talking points that are specifically transphobic. If you were here to learn, you would perhaps have watched the original video and consumed the content and science in it.
Okay. So let's see. We were just saying sex has never been defined exclusively by chromosomes, which I agree with. And I just asked you, how many have you looked at your chromosomes? Any of you?
Yes.
Yeah, they're huge. I keep them in the other room. I mean, I could barely get out of the house with my number 23. It's just
oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I know. I've asked this question of lots of people, and I am, I and a few geneticists I know are the only people who've actually had their chromosomes checked.
Yeah,
add me.
Yeah. If you do 23andMe, you kind of get indirectly an examination of questions.
And you also indirectly get yourself put in DNA databases.
Yes, of course. But even there, I have reservations because they're just comparing short segments of DNA, and then they assemble it into a likely chromosome configuration.
Yeah, so, I mean, I have a question about that even. I mean, would anybody who isn't a properly trained biologist of one stripe or another even be able to recognize which chromosomes they're looking at or what they're supposed to do in any way? Like, as far as I can tell, the layman point of view is just there's the woman chromosome and there's the man chromosome, and then there's a bunch of other miscellaneous fiddly foo that we don't really know what it does, but it's all about DNA, so it's good for catching criminals.
I think you've summarized it accurately. Yes,
that's almost the information I have, because I'm not a biologist. The only thing is I know that's not how it works.
Yeah, one of the things I'm planning to do in my genetics class the next few weeks is sit down over this Zoom thing, and I'm actually going to go through my 23andMe chromosome set, and
I mean, there's even this. Sorry, proceed.
And I'm going to tell them, here's the limitations. You can't. That some of this is just contrivance, and some of this is real, and some of it's really difficult to interpret. And yeah, Elizabeth Warren is not Indian, that kind of stuff. But it'll be fun.
Yeah. The thing is, there's this layman notion that the X and Y chromosomes look like the letters X and Y. And while that is kind of truish for the X, that's because all of the chromosomes except the Y chromosome look like an X. And the Y chromosome is just a little tiny bit of stuff. Like it's tiny. It doesn't look like a Y. It looks like the dot from a letter I, if we're going to call the other one an X.
That's right.
It looks like a tittle.
And if you look at bird chromosomes, for instance, they've got the heterogametic and homogametic reversed. So they have W and Z chromosomes. And no, they don't look like W's and Z's. Not at all. And if you look at a Drosophila sex chromosome, the Y in Drosophila looks like a little shepherd's crook. It's got a little kink at the top.
Well, now we all have a little kink somewhere.
Yes. Well, flies especially. Flies are weird. So anyway, indirect existence is making that point. Yeah. You'll have to get used to the term. Oh, this is another thing that bothers me. You have to get used to being called cisgender. There are people who get insulted when you call them cis.
Such as this person, according to the very next comment.
Oh. Okay. Oh man. They're just full of crap, aren't they?
Sex is caused by chromosomes.
Okay, yeah. Again, this is a developmental biologist here, and I will tell you that no, nothing is caused by chromosomes. Everything is caused by interactions between genes, cytoplasm, and environment, and you can't do this. But oh well. Yeah, they make the cis point. He doesn't like being called cis because I'm not defined by something I'm not. That's not what cis means.
I'm wrong. This person is a man. They say so right there.
Okay.
My mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, it's one consistent thing that you can pretty well rely on men to be screwing it up. But anyway, cis just means together. It means on the same side. Mm-hmm. That's all it means. It's not saying you're not something. It's just saying that, yeah, anyway.
The quickest definition of cis is not trans, basically. But usually what you have in a case like this is these are the arguments that you usually see from the gender-free type people, the subset of TERFs who say there is no such thing as gender, there is only sex, which kind of sounds like there is no Dana, there's only Zool. But anyway, because I'm not defined by something I'm not. Well, we're not defining you by something you're not. I'm just a man because I'm an adult male human. Yeah, that's why you're cis.
And I came with
practically
the
definition.
Because they're really common terms in biology. In molecular biology, Jacob and Monod came up with this terminology that cis just means it's something that operates on the same strand of DNA, and trans just means it operates on a different strand of DNA.
Yes.
So there's no judgment there.
Yeah, I mean, the term's been in organic chemistry for yonks.
Oh, yeah.
Although I have to say, in the last couple of decades, every time I've gone to the supermarket and seen all the products that specifically say they're not for trans fats, I'm starting to take it personally.
Okay, so Constant's disappointment says he's just a man, and everyone else is overcomplicating things. Okay. Thumbs down on that.
Which is interesting because there you kind of have, for lack of a better term, the standard dude fallacy. I am the default. All else is an unnecessary complication.
Stop messing up my simple mind with these female things.
1A.
Yeah, how dare the world be complicated?
I know. Okay, but indirect existence comes back and, oh yeah, thumbs up for you. Makes the same points. It's not caused by chromosomes, right? And they're just indicators of sex. Yeah, X and Y are just indicators of sex. They carry, Y carries one specific gene that's involved in activation of early expression of testosterone. That's it. It's also got a few other genes that are involved in things like sperm maturation, and a few things that are completely independent of any kind of sexual character at all. Okay. Yes, cisgender is something positive about you. Just as transgender is something positive about you. It's not a zero-sum game we're playing here. Okay.
Although I wanted to chime in, your comment, Abby, about the standard dudeness. For some reason, what jumped into my head was the astrophysical concept of the standard candle, and he's assigning himself to supergender 1A.
Yeah. Okay.
Imagine a spherical gender on an infinite plane.
Well, that sounds like fun. Okay. Let's see. So Alex Deem comes along, and yeah, I think we can pretty much rely that Alex is going to be saying the good stuff.
Has been so far.
Yeah, okay. Cisman is someone who at birth and at least for a time afterwards was told they were a boy. And now as an adult, they're okay with that and say they're a man. Yeah, okay.
Basically.
Yeah, that's the real difference to me, at least, is historical,
Yeah.
Psychological, social, historical. That's the main difference.
Well,
Okay, so, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you're cis, then your gender identity, who you are inside, as I understand it, matches the genitals you were born with, which makes life a lot simpler. And if you're trans, then it doesn't. So
Yep.
That's my understanding of the definitions and how they work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Alex makes a lot of the same points. Okay, good.
Although there is that moment there where Alex says, no one has half a Y chromosome. Literally, no one claimed this. On the one hand, true. On the other hand, you can with what I was saying about the SRI moving, translocation.
Yeah.
SRY, rather.
Okay, then Alex jumps on the cis. Yeah. This seems to be a very peculiar thing, that you are so deeply invested in cis versus trans, but you don't know what the terms mean.
Well, it's actually a little more insidious than that. They believe they do know what the terms mean, but they have a lot of turfy thought has, as with the whole idea of what gender ideology is supposed to be in their world, a very large edifice of straw manness that uses a bunch of pseudoscience and a bunch of assumptions about everything to try and mash everything into a coherent worldview that is just incorrect. And this winds up being part of it. The idea that cis means something, basically they're mad at the idea of cis meaning what it does, because in order to accept that cis has meaning, they have to accept that trans has meaning. And they really just think that trans means fake.
Right. This is they're upset that trans people exist. And if they ever even use the word cis, then they are, by implication, acknowledging that trans people exist. And I saw very much the same thing. Well, I saw exactly the same thing in the 90s in certain communities. Even before we were using cis, we were talking about people who weren't trans, or sometimes even using the phrase non-trans. And people objected to other people saying that they weren't trans. And it's like, well, but you're not.
I'm not non-trans, I'm normal.
Right. Yeah. So, but one of the interesting things that was happening was at the same time that I was meeting with people and talking with people that were having these objections around trans experience, you would have the right wingers who were saying the same thing about, I don't want to be identified as heterosexual, I don't want to be identified as straight.
Well, then you don't have to be, darling.
Goes back to strike, right? and when they're attempting to enlist in the military, and the recruiter asks Bill Murray if he's homosexual, and I can't remember the actor who was with Bill Murray in that scene, but he says, "No, but we're willing to learn."
That's lovely.
Yeah. Oh, I just have to mention something from the comments. So from the chat, that indirect existence is there. And he mentions, I barely finished high school and pieced together my knowledge of biology and other stuff by reading books. Reading books is good, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we're
He's been
not
making...
we're not trying to make the argument that the only way to know something is to have been officially professorized it at some point. I mean, that's certainly helpful, but frankly, being an autodidact is as good as anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, my degree is computer science. If I've learned anything about the biology that I can talk in this discussion at all, it's been completely outside of official academic circles.
Uh-huh. Also, Susan Montgomery mentions, how about spherical dude bros of uniform density?
That should be a song. That should be a song.
Yes, I'm suddenly thinking of what is it, Katamari Damacy?
Yeah.
Let's just go around, roll up all those dude bros.
Na 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 infinite dude bros.
Okay. Let's see here. Let's go on. We got to get through this because we've been here an hour and a half now. Anyway.
Nearly done, I think.
Yeah, good. Okay. Let's see. Constant disappointment again is going to disappoint us some more. I might believe that they are opposite sex, but I find there is another thing that bugs me. Opposite sex. What is opposite here? Yeah, it's just it's a weird historical term, and I know what it means, but when you think about it, it starts getting annoying. Okay, I find it hard believing things that aren't true, and I feel no need to pander to what seem to me to be false beliefs. Okay, there's a good problem. What seem to be false beliefs? Have you considered, Mr. Constant Disappointment, that maybe you are holding false beliefs? Anyway.
That's the axioms again, though. That's
yes.
the thing. When people just, I always feel like there's this thing where people will grab onto certain ideas and make it like parts of their identity somehow. So they feel like they're being attacked if one of the basic assumptions is being challenged in some way. And then they just cling on more, and you get this kind of behavior where we've given you the science and the other science and the furthermore science, the entire, like, what is the list of people? It's the AMA and the APA and the Endocrine Society and Harvard Medical and Stanford Medical and the WHO. And it's like, just everybody says trans people are real, but you don't care. Like, what would it, honestly, it's one of those cases where what would it take to change your mind?
Jordan Peterson says that's what counts. It's selective choices of authorities, and they reject the mainstream authorities that actually have some background and validity to their opinions, and expects to get something sensible out of the ones who instead only eat meat until they hospitalize themselves. Yes. Yeah, that's how I make all my decisions, right?
Well, these people are defining gender, as far as I can see, according to chromosomes. And despite the fact that, say, a century or two ago, we would all have defined gender entirely according to genitals, and at that time chromosomes weren't known about, and now suddenly at one point chromosomes are discovered, and it's discovered that, okay, actually it's more complicated than just defining things by genitals. There are chromosomal aspects to this as well. We now since then have learned that there's gender identity to take into account, and people can't seem to get their heads around the idea that, you know, actually just because we've always assumed that such and such is all there is to defining gender, hey, maybe there is now this factor that wasn't recognized before, but actually needs to be recognized because it's a thing, it exists. And why are we not taking this into account? Why are we insisting on defining things according to the old parameters when we now know about new ones?
Well, bear in mind, I think what you've got going on there is actually that people are still, in fact, using entirely the pre-Victorian version anyway. They only say chromosomes now because of their incorrect assumption that Y chromosome is a proxy for saying penis. Like they think it's
it sounds
perfectly
more scientific to them, and
well, if they were listening to the scientific experts, these replies wouldn't exist.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's true.
Okay, let's see. Okay, we got a new person steps into the fray. Cal Cox says the difference between a trans man and a cis man is that one identifies as a woman and the
trans
other
woman and cis man.
A trans woman and a cis man is one identifies as a woman, the other identifies as a man.
Yeah, nicely put.
Okay. Yeah,
personally, I'm inclined to think there tends to be a little more to it, but basically that's the only thing that we can, that's the nub of it.
Yeah, we ought to just accept what people identify as and live with that. Of course, constant disappointment seems to approve of that. I think it's because they're trying to make the point that, oh, the only difference is a matter of opinion.
Yeah.
Or a matter of feeling, which is even worse. Yes, feelings aren't real.
The TERF thought relies on trying to find external reasons. So it starts axiomatically with assuming that what one claims to be is irrelevant a priori, often because they assume it will be a common thing for cis men to claim to be trans women in order to infiltrate women's spaces. Like that's literally a thing they say a lot.
Okay, then indirect existence comes back with another good comment. Your beliefs are the false ones as evidenced by the fact that you need to make things up to try and defend them because nothing in reality supports them. And that's true of a lot of turfy sorts of things. Yeah. Okay. Oh, constant disappointment. I'm tired of you.
Yeah, there's nothing substantive in the next couple of...
Yeah. So I'm not blocking them, but they're just not saying much.
Well, they're not listening.
Yeah.
They're not interested in consuming new information or hearing science. They're just here to assert the TERF worldview and declare it true and declare that everyone, ironically from their first comment, and declare that anyone else bitterly is a bigot or will be labeled a bigot for agreeing with them, So.
I think here it's useful to reference an old bit of wisdom from you, PZ, when you coined the sin of being boring.
Okay. Yeah, old wisdom. That's all I've got anymore. Okay, so Alex Deem has got a long comment here. It looks pretty good.
Alex has been presenting the reasonable arguments here throughout.
Even if he is British. I don't know. Wait a minute, we got a British and two Canadians here? I'm all alone.
Yeah, you're outnumbered.
I'm outnumbered. Yeah.
You're outnumbered by people from countries with sensible healthcare systems.
Yes. Wouldn't you know, when I invite on people to discuss the reasonable point of view, I get a minority of Americans. That's kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
Okay, so Alex is just making a lot of good comments. Yeah, okay. I will give him a thumbs up.
Yep.
All right. Then we get, oh, is this the last comment?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, good. We will finish soon. So King Oli says, well, when you want to convince people this identity politics, that sets off alarm bells right there.
Yeah.
Is really not helpful. I think especially when you're kind of the scientific. Is this English?
Yes.
It is, sort of. It's just quite a pointless argument about how to define categories for athletes. And you're off to a
You're
bad
off.
start. Yeah, okay. Well, you're off to a bad start when we're at the fundamental nature, what makes biological sex. I mean, do I miss something important? Or are we just arguing how to call the effects of testosterone? Oh, what does that mean? Huh.
I
think-
think the
I
option is that he missed something important.
I think so too.
Other than punctuation.
And grammar. And
I think
yeah.
that what they're trying to say perhaps is, again, you're off to a bad start when we're at the fundamental nature of what makes biological sex. And I think they're saying, are we just talking about the effects of testosterone as the way to divide men and women? But kind of saying that's not what to do at all. And maybe, perhaps they're talking about the whole athletic divisions thing. Yeah, probably that.
Maybe. But I mean, that, you know, Moore talks about this. This is one of his 9 categories is endocrinological sex. So yeah, he's missing the other 8. So I
mean, the other half of that is, guess sure there are a lot of different factors you could separate people by for competitions to make them more fair, but this is kind of the last issue I can think of. Also, I wonder how helpful this rhetoric is to make a more social argument. This is kind of the opposite what the homosexuals argued, and to argue this social constructionism and on an even deeper level just seems like a losing argument. I don't know.
Okay.
I said the words and I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have no idea what they're getting at. Okay, let's see. Let's hope my other commenters have explained it for us. Yeah, I don't know what you mean by identity politics or social constructionism, because those ideas, those phrases conjure up for me do not appear anywhere in this video. I didn't say those, did I? Yeah. But those are kind of buzzwords.
That's Katie's. That's Katie's. Sweetie. Jamie, stop it. Sorry.
That's okay.
Just
Bring them into the
second.
conversation.
But I don't think he'd get very much coherent at the time of night, and his ADHD meds have worn off. So yeah, sorry. Just gonna mute this a second.
Okay, no problem. Okay, let's see what does Joe Smith say. Homosexuals argue that they are that way regardless of any biological factor.
Yeah.
Well, that might be more complicated than that, though. There's a lot of different points of view about homosexuality and biology. So, okay, but let's go with it. Since even the developmental biologists are not in agreement about what exactly goes into making the biological categories of male or female, it is multifactorial. Yes. Okay, I'll agree with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think all Joe is saying there in the first part is that gay people said that it wasn't like there isn't a gay gene to go looking for. And
Yeah,
so far that appears to be true, but the only reason to even go looking for one in the first place is to try to pathologize homosexuality.
Yes. Although there were a number of prominent homosexuals who were looking for a gay gene. So it's not quite that simple, but yeah.
Never is.
No. Okay.
I mean, frankly, if there was any one sentence that could encapsulate all queer issues in one knob, it's not that simple.
Okay, Alvial has a comment to indirect existence. Okay, happens when people use words, terms they don't understand, or is it a context or a goal? Homosexuals even mention sexuality. These are sentence fragments.
Yes, but accurate ones.
Yeah, okay. This is about sex, gender, not attraction. Yeah, although you could argue, well, attraction might fit into psychological sex, that category, but okay.
It's pretty squish.
Yeah. I would say even there it's
not that simple.
Okay, so King Oli is going to give us some more word salad, I fear. It's kind of obviously about transgender people in sport, and there you have just a ton of issues. Yes, I would agree.
Oh, someone has said the video is paused in the stream?
What? Oh.
Someone named Hemoglobin says the video is paused. Is there a stream problem right now? Or?
I don't know. Seems to be looking fine on my end.
I'm hearing.
No, I think it's okay.
Okay. So
I
charge
would
on. Let's see. Also, the intro was a definition of identity politics. Where did I define identity politics?
Well, I don't think you defined identity politics. I think that what they're saying is that when you spoke specifically about how you identified and your experience didn't include the experience of being a trans person, and we should listen to trans people when discussing,
right.
that introduction to your video demonstrated what they think of as paradigmatic identity politics.
Aha.
A phrase I've always considered extremely ironic, because nobody is more welded to identity politics than hard conservatives. It's just that their identity politics is about the cis straight white people.
Okay. Yeah.
And everyone else can go hang.
I get it now. So because I said we should listen to trans people, I am practicing identity politics. Because if we could get away from identity politics, we could stop listening to those trans people.
Yes, if we can get rid of all the biased humans involved, then we that may be difficult.
Yes, or we could just cut through it all, just silence all the trans people and then not worry about it. That's another way to approach this.
Don't tempt them. That is an active government activity in multiple countries. Did you see what Hungary just did? Whee!
Yeah. Okay, but he continues. Yeah, this fits. Okay, he has the scientific authority, but according to him, somehow I am supposed to talk to trans people about biological sex when I got questions, which sounds just real weird for everybody.
You can start by listening to biological consensus, what the Lancet said, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I would never say you should only talk to trans people. You should talk to lots of different people. How do you figure these things out if you're not getting multiple perspectives and paying attention to lots of people? And that means not excluding one category like trans people because you don't like their position. That's what's real weird for everybody, is we're supposed to silence all these other people. Okay, we got through it.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
I will probably go through a little later, and I should give those thumbs up to some of the better comments here that I only started doing about halfway through, but yeah, I'll go back over it.
It always does bother me, that whole notion, which is very common in various areas of psychology, where if you're examining a phenomenon, you have to not allow the people who display or are involved with that phenomenon to be involved with the research, because they're by definition not objective, which just raises the question, what do objective people look like to you? And is it always Sigmund Freud? Because that dude had some problems with his mom. I mean,
Really. And yeah, and it's the same for a lot of issues. It's like saying, well, we should work on race issues, but let's not talk to Black people about that.
Right.
Yeah. Or gay issues, we should just talk to the straights. They're the ones who are the authorities.
Only talk to the normals. Let the normals be in charge of the scientific examination. Surely that can't have any effect.
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong?
Oh, nothing. Yeah, that's yes. Speaking as the white male heterosexual on this panel, yes, we should all defer to me, right?
The denizens of the neutral planet. No, I liked that one. Tell my wife I said hello.
Yeah. Okay, so we should wrap that up here. I think we got some really good comments in the chat. I'm pleased with that. I thought I was actually favorably impressed by the YouTube comments. We got a few people that sent us off on tangents, but
it was actually really civil and well thought out by cesspool standards.
Yeah. I was kind of happy with it. So, I got into this, I was thinking, oh, this is going to be a nightmare because there's going to be all these horrible, horrible people in there. And no, it wasn't so bad. Maybe I should read my comments more often.
No.
Yeah,
Scary.
this was an aberration, I know, but okay. Okay, so maybe we should close this out. And what I would like to do before we all go away is, could each of you introduce yourselves and tell the audience where they can find you outside of this video?
You guys first. Hello, I'm Sarah, and I am from Britain. And in terms of where you find me online, I'm on Free Thought blogs as Geeky Humanist, and I mostly do book stalkings.
Okay.
And I'm CripDyke. You can find me on Free Thought blogs at Pervert Justice or Justice, depending on how you want to take it.
Uh-huh.
Nothing wrong with a bit of justice perversion. I'm Abbey St Brendan, also on Free Thought blogs at Impossible Me.
All right. Yeah, we got good people at Free Thought blogs. I would just encourage you, just go to the main page of Free Thought blogs.
Read everything.
Browser.
Become addicted. It's the best thing for everybody. Trust us
Yes.
on this. Trust the computer, everyone. The
Yeah.
computer is your friend.
Trust me, I'm a doctor.
Yes.
And yes,
Trust the spider doctor. He knows the right way for everyone to be.
yes, I have standards for how organisms ought to interact with one another. So yeah, this is how you should be.
We need a peacock spider doing their hypnotic dance.
Oh, yes, I saw this video from an Australian museum. They had some guy in a peacock spider costume.
Nice.
I was so jealous.
Was that the big puppet where they were telling the spider you can go look around? There's no people here right now.
Yes.
It was a giant puppet, but yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
It was beautiful.
but it had a guy in it and everything.
Yeah.
I was wondering what it would take for me to get one of those. Yeah, I could start wearing that to class every day. That would. Okay, well, thank you all. Thank you for helping me go through these comments. I think it was very productive, very helpful. And
It's
you all
fun.
did a great
Thank you for
job.
having me.
Yes, it was fun. I may have to do this again sometime. Next time I put up some controversial video, we'll see.
I'll do this.
Oh,
All
God,
right.
poking the hornet's nest just so we can have fun swatting the hornets. That's asking for trouble.
That's very YouTube. Come on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, take care, everyone.
Okay, thanks.
You too. Take care.
Yeah.
Have a good weekend. Stay
Bye all.
safe. Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.